Back to our series of aphorisms with this second aphorism from Nietzsche. Quote, "We often preach our faith when we have lost it." End quote. So let's take that one more time, more slowly. We often preach our faith when we have lost it. End quote. It's from The Wanderer and His Shadow of 1880. So just after Nietzsche had left Basel University, had given up his teaching place through illness. This was the second volume of Human All Too Human. The first volume was followed by two supplements, the third supplement being The Wanderer and His Shadow, which is included in Human All Too Human Volume 2, in the Levy edition, of course. This is Aphorism 66 in The Wanderer and His Shadow. So once again, looking at the wider ramifications of this aphorism. It has that kind of psychological truth through its almost antithetical turn. It is when we lose our faith that we become a preacher of it. Something we've all probably experienced in some way or other, in some form or other. In order to rekindle our enthusiasm for something, we become a preacher for it, in order to probably reconvince ourselves. This suggests Sartre's bad faith, mauvais foi, bad faith actors, as we often call them. And the modern world is replete with them, isn't it? In politics particularly. So many in politics espousing views that they don't really have any faith in. Many preachers, the most vociferous preachers, are often hypocrites, as we find out eventually. They didn't believe a word of it. And in fact, their lack of belief gave them an almost compelling intensity. So we are reminded there of Yeats, aren't we? The passionate intensity of those who believe in nothing. And those who do believe are hidebound and unable to speak. So in this kind of pessimistic, nihilistic interpretation of the aphorism, we can see in parallel with Nietzsche's attack on faith. He calls faith an ass's bridge. Faith as really a cloak for the instincts, he says, particularly when he talks in relation to Martin Luther, the reformer. And that's the context. If we look at the context of the aphorism within The Wanderer and His Shadow, we see that the aphorism occurs in a short dialogue that Nietzsche writes between Philip Melanchthon and Martin Luther. Melanchthon being the humanist philosopher who was a friend and associate of Martin Luther. Melanchthon is the one that makes this aphorism. Luther replies that it's a very fine, speaking like an angel. It's a great aphorism. And then Melanchthon says, actually, Luther, it's what your enemies say of you, that you preach so vociferously because you have lost your faith? And then Luther replies, well, it must be a lie from the devil's arse. And delightfully showing Luther's peasant crudeness. And importantly, but I should have mentioned, this passage 66 in The Wanderer in His Shadow is titled, What is Truth? And so the emphasis in context is not on faith as much as it is on truth. And of course, what is truth is the word spoken by Pontius Pilate at the trial of Jesus. And Nietzsche says that Pilate is the only person in the New Testament that he can respect. And that this saying, what is truth, is the only saying of any real interest in the New Testament.